I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Friday, January the 6th, brought to you in part by Noromycin by Norbrook. Noromycin 300 LA is your proven go-to antibiotic for seasonal diseases in cattle. It's a must-have in your vet shack, your pickup, four-wheeler or side-by-side, or your saddlebags. For more information, go to norbrook.com. Actual carcass weight information come in finally. It's always 2 weeks behind, and we've been looking forward to this information because we knew it was going to be bullish, and it's the information that come in after that bitter cold week with all the storms, and that's the week that ended on Christmas Eve. Why do we have to wait that long for that information when it's all put into a computer system at a packing plant wherever those cattle were harvested? Well, I don't know why we have to wait that long. If we got Cattle Price Discovery and Transparency Act, which I've told you guys, if we could get that bill passed, I believe it would save this industry. That is one of the things that it would do, is it was forced that to come out as quick as it can, which I don't know why it couldn't come out the next day or maybe the following day after that. But it's 2 weeks behind, but we did get that information. And your average dressed steer carcass weight come in at 920 pounds, and as big as that sounds, that's still 7 pounds lighter than the previous report. That's significant. It adds up to a lot of head counts, but we're still talking tonnage whenever we're talking beef. But you know, you can take those pounds and figure them into head, and yes, we're short on head counts. And whenever we drop weight like we did that week, and we're continuing to drop as we're having bitter cold temperatures in the northern plains and elsewhere, it's just like having less cattle out there. But that 920 pound average dressed steer carcass weight was 5 pounds lighter than the same report a year earlier too. So our cow weights are dropping too. It's a winter time. It just happens that way. They're sucked down. There's not a lot to eat. Not hardly any forage out there at all. Cow and bull prices have been sharply higher since we've come back from the holiday break. We didn't see them jump up like we do a lot of years where your cow and bull prices ramp up in the sales right before Christmas, but man, they have really been sharply higher since we've come back. $5 to $10 higher in some cases. So if you've got some, might be a good time to get rid of them. But we're going to continue to see prices on cull cows and bulls be sharply higher and sell high historically, because we just don't have that many of them left. We've culled our herds so deep through these drought situations that we've had the last 2-3 years in all of your major production areas. And now the calves are selling so well, you know, if they think the cow will have another calf, and the calves are bringing like they do now and what we're expecting them to bring as we go forward, they're going to hold on to that cow. So there's going to be fewer slaughter cows out there for these cow packers to buy. And unlike our steer and heifer packers, we still have a competitive market on slaughter cows and bulls. Why? Because the overwhelming majority of them are sold in sale barns at competitive bidding. Unlike your fat cattle trade, it's mostly direct, it's mostly through sweetheart deals. All of those sweetheart deals have no competition. That's the first rule in joining into one of those AMAs or alternative marketing agreements, is you have to promise all your cattle to one packer, and guess what that does? That eliminates competition. But still getting really cold snaps out there. A lot of snow up in the northern plains. I was talking to a friend of mine. He said Bob Beck's ranch there in Dallas, South Dakota, that's near Winter, South Dakota, he's got over 20 inches of snow on his ranch. Bassett, Nebraska was forced to sell a day later than normal because they got 22 inches in Bassett. Big time snows. That's going to amount to a lot of moisture. It's going to be miserable for a couple of months, but gosh, look forward to the spring. It's going to be wet and it's going to be green. It's going to be nice to have all that moisture whenever we get to that time, and just looking like a wetter year as we're going forward. I want to talk to you about a Feeder Flash gang member that I recently learned about. It's 14-year-old Cole Ellis. He's from Sugar Grove, North Carolina. He loves the Feeder Flash. He likes to get out of school and get in with his dad and go around and check cows and do chores, and they listen to the feeder flash and the pickup when they go, and he gets a kick out of it, and he's learning about the cattle industry, and he just loves everything ag, especially cattle. He wasn't quite old enough for the high school FFA, but he was the first president of the elementary chapter of FFA at his school. He's a worker, works like a grown man, and just craves it. I mean, just anything ag, wants to help neighbors, help friends out, especially if they're working cattle. He's a trader at heart, which that goes after my heart. And he loves to trade his chickens and goats and baby calves and everything that he's on, and he's just eat up with it. Doesn't really want to go to school because he just wants to work in and around the farm all the time, especially when it's taking care of cattle. He's a big brother to his little brother Cody, who worships the ground that he walks on and just wants to do everything like his bigger brother does. But him and his family, they market their cattle up at Abington Feeder Cattle Association up in Virginia with Butch Foster, my good friend there, that's the marketing agent for the Virginia Cattlemen's Association. But they must have good cattle, and they know how to market them if they're doing it there. And you can watch those Abington Feeder Cattle Association sales, their tele-auction sales on dvauction.com. But tell you what, I should be saying that all of these things is what Cole was, because Cole lost his life. He lost his life a week ago in a farming accident. And I tell you what, I never got to shake hands with Cole. I never got to meet him personally, but I know him. I know 100 boys just like him. I was him. Most of you men that are listening to this report were also him. He just wanted to do everything when it come to the cattle. He was out of school, and so he was feeding the cattle for his dad last week on Friday, and he was on the tractor putting feed out, and the icy conditions had gotten slick. The tractor got out from under him, and it cost him his life. Why do these things happen? Why do good things or bad things happen to good people? We don't know. We wish like crazy it didn't happen. You know, we would trade places with him. He was so young and had his whole life ahead of him. But we don't want him to have lived his life any different. That's what he wanted to do. He was doing what he loved. And I just wanted to tell you that story about him. Be careful out there. Let your kids be kids, and if they want to feed and they want to do big man chores, let them do it. But oh my gosh, you just can't be careful enough. But you gotta live, and we just remember Cole Ellis, 14-year-old boy, and we think about his father Andrew and the rest of their family, and we can't pretend to know the grief that they've got right now, but we still feel for them. Let's talk about your board for Thursday. February live cattle futures up 7 cents at 157.35. April down 15 cents at 161.27. Back months on live cattle down 7 cents to down 80 cents. Feeder cattle futures, they lost about half what they gained on Wednesday. January feeder cattle were down $1.42 at 183.80. March was down 167 at 186.55. Your back months were down 52 to down $1.17. Your grains were a little cheaper again, and they have been, I tell you what, all year so far, which hasn't been a week yet. But March corn down a penny at 6.52 3/4. January beans down 11.5 at 14.66 3/4 a bushel. Your fat cattle trade continued to creep along. We saw a lot of haggling going on. Packers just not wanting to give an inch and wanting to get the very best cattle. And there's not a lot of those really good cattle out there. There's actually more of them in Kansas than there is in Nebraska right now, because of the way that they've kind of creamed Nebraska here over the last several weeks. But we did see a little bit more trade, and it's strong, steady to a pinch higher again, and I think it could be a lot higher, and I think it will be fully higher by the time we get the bulk of the trade sold. But the Southern Plains has already pulled the plug at steady prices. Iowa, about 700 head confirmed on Thursday from 157.5 to 159.5. Top end there is higher. Nebraska, 700 head confirmed. Somebody sold cattle at 153 FOB. Why would somebody do that? And I can't understand why it would get reported and they're put in there at the highest grade of cattle. I just, there's no reason for that, and I don't even think it should have been shown. Then we had dress trade at 252, which is as high as we've seen it through this whole rally. Kansas traded the bulk of their sales, 6,000 head, 156 to mostly entirely 157, a little bit of 248 in northern Kansas there. Texas sold 4,700 head, direct sales in Texas at 157. That was steady, but we know that the bulk of the trade for sure in Texas and mostly in southwest Kansas is a buck higher than that. Most of your sweetheart deals are not that complicated. They're just a buck higher than what your market is. And they want to continue to get more people. They don't mind giving them an extra buck so that they can get the leverage on the few guys that are still trading, negotiated, and they're wanting to wipe those out where they can do what they did to the hog business with what little trade we have in the cattle business. And guys don't worry about the future. They don't worry about their son's future or their grandson's future. They just pile right into one of those AMAs, take the buck up, and don't worry about what happens down the road. But I guarantee you a piper will be paid at some point. Talk about competitive bidding on fat cattle. Kelowna, Iowa had a good round of fat cattle at their slaughter cattle auction on Thursday, over 900 head on offer. And the good fat steers and heifers, the choice yield grade 2 to 4 steers and heifers, there was over 400 head of them that fell in that category. They averaged from 167 to 168, with the top end as high as 173.25. That's what they can pay for cattle, guys. But you just have to have balls enough to ask them, and then guts enough to stick your boots in the ground and make them give it. Let's talk about your box beef cutout values. They were mixed. Choice cuts were down $1.26 at 281.63. Selects up 55 at 256.95. Your slaughter, it's hard to look at the slaughter until we get past this week because of those holiday interruptions, but up through Thursday, 385,000. That's 3,000 less than last week, which was also a holiday week. 64,000 less than the same week a year ago, where the holidays fell a little bit differently. Talk about what else is going on. Every month here on the Feeder Flash, we give you a market of the month. Brick and mortar sale barn that is doing a good job for their customers and with competitive bidding and an active market there. And this month we picked out a good one. It's a long ways from my house, but I do get regular updates from there. It is Stockman's Livestock Exchange in Dickinson, North Dakota. They have also just changed ownership there, which the younger guys that have just taken over ownership, they've been working in and around that market there for a long time. They include John Fisher, who messages with me regularly and keeps me abreast of what's going on there in Dickinson. Excuse me, Austin Henderson and Dan O'Donnell. They've taken over ownership, and they've taken the baton from longtime ownership of James and Renee Erickson and Larry and Judy Schnell. You'll know Larry Schnell. He's been fairly active in some of these industry politics of late here, but and the old owners are not just going to take off and grab everything and leave. They're doing what a lot of them do now. Whenever they have a change in ownership, they're going to be around for at least a year or two, just to kind of make sure things keep going, because it's just not their business. It's everybody's business that lives up in that part of the country that they market cattle for, and they do such a good job. But congratulations to Stockman's Livestock Exchange of Dickinson, North Dakota, for being your Zoetis Market of the Month. Talk about your feeder cow market. Real-time index on DV auction. End of the day on Thursday sitting at 179.34 based on an 800-pound steer. That's up 39 cents. So we've recovered from those light receipts. We're getting back into where it's really going to be. By the first part of next week, it'll be real reliable. But that's no different than what they do at the CME Cash Feeder Cattle Index. But it's going to settle down too. I want to tell you about a couple of production sales. Of course, we have jillions of production sales, especially on the weekends, but this time of year and coming up over the next 3 or 4 months, I mean, we'll just have lots and lots of production sales, all types of purebred stock, both bulls and females to pick from all over the country. You just want to get on dvauction.com, stroll through there, and you can look at their online catalogs and then look through people's stuff and check out their EPDs and do all your bull shopping right there. But coming up on Sunday, January the 8th at 2 p.m., Wrestler Live Land and Cattle Company having their annual production sale at Cooperstown, North Dakota. They got Red Angus cattle, good ones. They've been friends and been with DV Auction for a long time, and that's a good one to pick from. Then on Monday, Dickoff Angus Ranch, 24th annual production sale on the ranch there at Onaka, South Dakota. Justin Dickoff is one of our best reps here with DV Auction, but he's also got his own purebred herd there, and his wife Nicole and their kids, they work that ranch all the time and do a really good job, and he stays very, very busy, but he's got excellent judge in livestock, and he's got a nice herd there. It's going to be on Monday, and that's going to be January the 9th at 1 o'clock. Their bull and heifer sale. They got Angus and Simmental cattle. Check out the Dickoff Angus Ranch sale. Also, we keep gaining more commercial sale barns here at dvauction.com on our broadcasting. I made note earlier this week that we hooked up OKC West in El Reno, Oklahoma. Late in the week here we picked up Olean Livestock Market near Eldon, Missouri. That sale's been there for a long time with the Bledsoe family there, and we welcome them and we welcome you to get on each Friday, starting here today on this Friday, and you can view and bid the sale there at Olean Livestock. Let's talk about your big sales on Thursday. Winter Livestock in Pratt, Kansas had 4,000 head. No sale for the last 3 weeks, so luckily your inept market reporters in Kansas didn't have to really put themselves on the line for that. and thank God we didn't have to try to read it. But they did have a stick-out sale in Pratt, Kansas. 72 steers weighed 654, bring 210 1/4. That's a big-time quote, guys. I don't care where you're at, especially if you're in Pratt, Kansas. How about Farmers and Ranchers Livestock in Salina, Kansas? Just straight north of there, had 3,900 head. No sale for 3 weeks. Stick out sale there at Farmers and Ranchers in Salina. 70 head of steers weighed 721 at 198 1/4. Had a stick out sale at one of our video sales that we work with here at DV Auction. Western Video Market out of Cottonwood, California, had one of their just regular video sales there, and we do take the bids with them through DV Auction, but they take phone bids, and then their bigger sales are on satellite TV too. But man, did they have a humdinger there on Thursday. They had the Cruise livestock cattle there, home raised, 85 head of 690-pound weaned steers in Plush, Oregon, for next week delivery. Of course, all the bells and whistles, NHTC, SAV, Verified Natural, GAP 4, and your Beef Care, which is a newer one, but they've got it all. They had it all right there. 85 of them weighed 690 for next week delivery. Bring $2.20 a pound on Western Video Market. Check them out if you're looking at marketing your cattle in a videos kind of way. Talk about your Zoetis stick-out sale of the day. Bassett Livestock Auction in Bassett, Nebraska. Normally on Wednesday, but sold on Thursday because of the big snow that they had. But man, it didn't hurt the market any. 4,400 head. I think they put some hot damn in the coffee there, and we're giving it out for free and bringing it in double-handed there. But you look at these best tested weights: 1,340 head of 6-weight steers, average 662. The weighted average price of $211.38. 646 head of 7-weight steers, average 741, with a weighted average price of $201.25. On the heifers, 573 head of 5-weight heifer calves, average 542, weighted average price $209.52. 647 head of your 6-weight heifers, average 642, with a weighted average price of $193.48. Really good sale there at Bassett Livestock. Give you some individual quotes. How about Ogallala Livestock Auction Market in Ogallala, Nebraska? Sold 206 head fancy 521-pound steers, bring $2.44 a pound. How about Columbus Sales Pavilion in Columbus, Nebraska? Aaron Beckler told me he sold 68 steers, weighed 914 pounds, bring $186, guys, weighing well into the nines. Oh my goodness. But the most impressive quote that I saw anywhere on Thursday, your Mackerson, no BS, top quote for the day, indeed come out of Bassett Livestock Auction. It was 113 steers, weighed 753 at 204.75. And that's your feeder flash for Friday.